this shortcut, because this will be, if you use this shortcut, because you get need to open the terminal very frequently, so it's better that you get versed with some of the shortcuts that are there in Visual Studio Code. So let's open it with this shortcut. Now we have the terminal here.
Soumendra,
So
just a second.
yeah.
Is there any chance? Okay, yeah, now I think it's good. Means till now we were facing a lot of disturbance.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Okay.
now it's good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So once we have this terminal opened, what I want is like the first thing that you should do is like write here node and -v, just to check if you have got the node installed here. The second thing that you need to do here is like write node my npm -v, just to see if you have got npm installed here. So if you see the versions available here, then both the things are installed. And if both the things are installed, then we are good to go. Okay. So let's clear this. The first thing that we need to do is, uh, so I'll talk about webpacks later on, and we will talk about configurations and other stuffs later on. But for the time being, we will use the create React app template. Okay, that is something that is used very frequently in the industry. Generally, like people don't want to waste their time configuring the webpacks, okay, until unless there is a requirement that requires additional configuration, and even that is something that you can also do with create react app also. So it's more like if you learn Java, right? So at the start, you if you write a simple hello world program, you may have to write public class solution, public static void main something something, and then you have to write system.out.println and hello world. But up to the hello world thing that you understand, but the rest of the things like class, static void main, all these keywords you may not get at the start for Java. So same here with React also. Like right now you won't get what is webpack and how to configure. They are like more like production, like when you configure your app for production, at that point of time we will use them. So right now it's not required. So we will first check if we are able to create our app with create react app, if it is installed. If it's not installed, then you have to run this command npm install, then place -g. So it stands for, it's the global flag, like you are installing this particular package globally. And then you write create react app. So you need to install this thing. Let's see.
Soumendra, sometimes we are getting some background noise. It is,
Sorry, come again.
we are getting some background noise.
Okay, what kind of noise is it? Is it like someone whispering, or is it like some kind of
No,
thing
no, no.
running?
Some machine is running.
Some machine running. Okay, wait. Is it fine now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, right. So it looks like something is wrong with my npm install. Let me try disconnecting from the VPN. Okay, let's try now. Okay, so it's installed now. You may see some warnings like too high severity vulnerabilities. You don't really have to worry about that right now. Okay, so once it's installed, you should be able to use it to create your app globally. So all you have to do is like create React app, and then you have to give some name to your app. Okay, so I'll give like my. Okay, remember, don't use capital letters while naming your app. My personal blog. My personal blog. The term is not recognized as the name of a function. Okay, but we did install it right now. Let's check. Yeah. Okay. If the spelling name or if the path was included in the card is correct and try again. Okay, let's restart our terminal to see if it works. Mm, It's term is not recognized name command function script file on the previous program. Check the spelling of the file and the path was available. Okay, fine. So it looks like so basically it looks like the when we are installing create react app with the -g flag, it's not updating our path variables or the environment variables that we have. That's the reason it's not able to find that script. So anyways, you can try it on your system, and if it the same problem arises, let me know. So meanwhile, let's open something that I was already working on. And this has a lot of things. Let me see if I can. Okay, or maybe I can download something for Stackflix. Yeah, so we're good to go now, I think. Let's come back to our VS Code and open folder, move to workspace, and then move to this part and select the folder. Okay, now we are in. Let's so once you have like this package, all you have to do, so if you are able, if you create it with like create react app, So you will not require any, you don't have to do this step. But if you are like trying to set up some code that you have got from GitHub, let's say you're working in a company and you downloaded the code base from their GitHub repository, then and if you have to set it up, then in that case you may have to run this thing. So all you have to do is like run npm install and then hit enter. So what it's gonna do is like this is the file called package.json. I'll explain to you what this file has. And in this file, you will see that there are these dev dependencies. So this is all and these dependencies. So they are the ones that gets downloaded when you hit npm install. So what get downloaded is React scripts, React, and React DOM. All these three packages gets downloaded, and the packages have like what I mean is like all these packages are not like individual packages. They are dependent upon many other JavaScript libraries. So all of that libraries, all the like dependencies, they all get downloaded together. So all you have to do is like hit npm install. But remember, if you are like using a company's laptop or something, then they may have a proxy server associated with that. In that case, you may have to do some extra configuration. And if that's the case, let me know. Okay, but okay. Meanwhile, by the time it's installing, let me take you through what it means. So right now, this package .json contains the name of your app. It contains the version of your app. You can, it's like 000. You can change whatever the version you want. Private is true. It's not required at this, point. Actually, if you hover over it, it says that if set to true, then npm will refuse to publish it. So this is like required when you're trying to create an npm, something in npm that you want to publish in the node package manager so that other developers can use it. So this is not required for you at this point of time. Then you have the dependencies. The dependencies basically contains the scripts that we are going to be working on. So the first thing is like React, and this is the version of React that you have asked him to download. And this caret symbol at the start, it basically means that take the major version, the last major release of React, right? So basically it means the latest version, take the latest version of React. If I remove this caret symbol, so, and then if I hit npm install, then even after like 2 years, let's say some new version of React comes out, maybe 18.3 point something. Okay, then it will still download 18.1. Although if I put a caret symbol at the front and then hit npm install, then it will always download the latest version like 18.3.0. So you can know more about it like in the npm documentation. So you can go there and you can check it out. Then you have the React DOM, and the version for React DOM is 18.1.0. And then the dev dependencies are there. The dev dependencies basically means that they will not be part of your production, but you want it to be there for the time being so that you can set it up on the dev environment. Okay. So what it means is like dev dependencies. What it means is if you hit npm install, then this will also get downloaded. But if you hit npm install and the environment is production, then these dev dependencies will not get downloaded. Then you have the start, then you have the scripts tag. So inside the scripts tag, it basically like it defines some scripts and what to do if these are like triggered. For example, if you write npm start, then under what it does in the background is that it calls the React scripts and pass the start argument to it. So it starts your React app in a way. Then similarly, if you hit build, then you can like it will do React script, call the React script, pass the build. So, and similarly for test and eject, I'll talk about eject later on, what it means when we'll do the CSS section. Similarly, what I want to say is like you can create your own, scripts also. For example, maybe I may want to run like maybe show directories, and I just want to execute the dir command with it. So I can write something like this. Okay. So this is like not a proper use case, but yeah, just to show you how it works. So, okay, I think our npm install is complete now. So let's start npm. Let me see if this has anything. Yeah, okay, some content is there. So you can hit npm start. So when we hit npm, when we write npm start, so this, but oops, so this script gets called in React scripts and it passes start to it. Right. So let's wait for it to be up and running. Meanwhile, let's talk about this thing. What other things are there? Okay, so this is the first file which your React actually takes up. React 34, so, yeah. So yeah, so this is the we are unable to detect the target. Okay, so this is the first index.js is the first file that your React app enters. And in here, you see that there's a function called create root. So this exists within the your React DOM client. Okay, this create root, you pass the root element to it. And this root element here is this one. So document, so you have the root element is just a constant variable to which you are calling document.get element by id, and you're calling the root here. So if you see in the public folder the index.html, you see this div id equals to root. So this is where this div is been assigned to this particular variable, and then we are calling the create root element from it. So it creates a root element from it. So the strict mode, you don't need to worry about it right now. Okay, or you can even, I will remove the strict mode for now, and I'll simply render the app. Okay, now see the message that we are getting here. It says you can now view the React in the browser. On the local, it's available on HTTP localhost 3000. So we want to open this one in our browser. So it's already open. Hello stack this, start editing to see some magic happen. Right. So the question is like, you are not, so this, if this is your JavaScript, if you see your index.html, it just contains a single div, right? And in here in the index.js, okay, you just have the app. Sorry, you just have the root element. The root element is created from here, and then to the root, you are just rendering app. So basically, what the text that you are seeing here is available within the app .js here. So here, if you have import something, so I'll remove all this thing right now, and we'll start from scratch. So index.js will be available always, and we start with app.js, and I'll take you through. And today, basically, what we are talking about here is like some simple discussion on what a component looks like. Okay, so we will take you through what is JSX, what is Babel, etc. So if you want to start writing anything which returns JSX, the first thing in your any React file is like you have to import React. Import this one. Import React. This is the first thing that you need to do. Then what do you need to do next? So what I've already said is like we will be passing some, we will be, so here in JSX, we are importing this app. Okay, so that simply means that the app.js should export something which here we import. And since this is like within Angular brackets, you should know from this is like what we are returning is JSX. Now, what is JSX essentially? So JSX is like, if you see the JSX code, it will be more like a, it will appear to you more like normal HTML. Okay, but a little bit different from HTML. Actually, JSX is just sugar coated HTML, but it's actually JavaScript. So whatever code that you write in JSX, it looks like HTML, but it's actually JavaScript. So the first thing that we do is like we create a function. Okay. So the function can be like constant app equals to this, equals to this. So if you have seen my first session, you might already know that this is how we write a arrow function. You can also write it like we did in the last time in the function, something like function app and something like this also. But this is the latest standard according to ECMA 6. Yeah. So what is ECMA 6 is basically the latest release of JavaScript. Okay. And that enables you to use this arrow function. And that is a standard that we have in the industry right now. So we will use an arrow function for the time being. But normal functions are also going to work. So from here, as I said, that we will return some JSX. So we write return. Okay. And then we open some, first bracket. And in here, we can return whatever we want to return. So one thing that you should always remember while returning something from an arrow function is that it should always be enclosed within a parent element. With what I mean to say is like you can't return p and then you can't return, span or something like that. This will be incorrect. If you want to properly return, then you have to enclose it within a parent tag. That parent can be div or something, whatever. Okay. Yeah. So, but we will not do that. So what we will do is like we will create a div, and inside this div, what we will do is um, we will create an h1. Let's say hello, I'm learning React, and welcome to my page. Okay. So this is what we are returning from here. Now, remember that this is what we have written. This appears to you like this is an HTML code, but actually this is not HTML code. It only looks like an HTML code. Actually, it's a JavaScript code. Okay. And you will understand more about it as you do more practice with React. Okay. And you will sometimes you will see that in some of the codes they just directly write constant. I can also write it like this: constant p equals to and I can write it here something like ion. So this is perfectly valid. Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, in JavaScript variable, how can we assign like this in this HTML? But this is the reason why we are able to do that is because this is not HTML, this is JavaScript. And that's what JSX means. Okay, so JSX is like sugar-coated HTML. It is JavaScript, but it appears to you like HTML. So you can easily use them. Like you can also use it as JavaScript. You can also use it. You can think of it as HTML, but use it as JavaScript. That's the primary advantage of using JSX. So for compiling this JSX, it cannot be compiled simply. You need a Babel. Okay. So a Babel is your compiler for JSX. It compiles the JSX and creates the underlying HTML code out of it. Okay, so we remove this for now. This is not required. and we save this. So when we save this, you see that there is some error coming here. Attempted import app does not contain a default export. As I said, that in index.jsx or JS, we are importing something from the app, but we are not exporting anything from the app. So all we have to do is like we have created this variable app. All we have to do is like simply export it. Export with the default keyword. Remember, this is very important. Export with the default keyword. When you click save, now it says compiled successfully. You go back to your localhost and you refresh the page. Now it says, hello, I'm learning React. Welcome to my page. Right. So this is how it is. If you, yeah, and this is like imported here. And this is again, as you can see, this angular bracket something, this is not a proper HTML. This is not HTML. You might already have recognized that this is not HTML. But since we are importing this from here, this entire thing from here, okay, then we can also use it. Since this is a component, we can use it as this, and we can pass it in angular brackets, because this, whatever we do it in angular brackets, this is just JavaScript. And this is just a JavaScript, this is just a JavaScript variable, right? So if this is just a JavaScript variable which we are importing here, okay, and since JSX is just JavaScript, then we can also pass it here. Okay, so it might sound a little confusing to you right now, but it will make more sense later on. But for the time being, just remember that all these things and this app here, they are all JavaScript, but they just appear like HTML. Now, one more thing that I want to show you is like if you go to inspect element here and we take the body. Okay, so you see that in the entire, page, there's nothing. Like you have HTML, then you have the head section, and then you have the body section, and within the body, there's just root. Okay, so whatever app that you create, okay, however large it may be, it may have thousands of buttons, it may have many different input tags, everything will go inside this root div. Okay, because you have in the index.js, you have created this root element. You have taken this root element and created a root out of it. So your React app injects your app into this root element. Okay. Yeah, so this is like more technical. What I want you to understand for the time being is like how we create components. Okay, so what I want you to do, and what is something that I'll show you some examples, and then you can do the rest on yourself. Let's see if I have the last day's work folder. Then let's go to document. It's not here. It might be in the desktop. It's not there in the desktop also. Okay, let's open. Then let's open the open file. Probably here we'll go to, where was this index? Yeah, random page.html. Okay. So whatever we have here, okay, we are going to whatever we have created in this HTML session, we are going to create it with React. The only difference is that we will be doing that with, we will be doing that in the form of components, like these individual tags that we have done. Okay, we will be doing that with components. So let's and for the first day, like we don't need to apply any styles. We can just use this thing. So for example, this p tag. Okay, so if you come here, so let's us create a component for this p tag. So we write p tag dot js. Okay, so the first step, as I always said, you have to import React. Sorry. You have to import React. Then we have to import, p tag. From here we return some JSX. And what was it? Okay, just copy this. So we have done that. Now we do an export of this. Okay, and now we import it. Now you see here that even when I wrote this file and when I clicked on save, nothing happened in the terminal, right? So that's because unless this particular code is not injected into your main app, so the compiler does not care about it, because yeah, there is some code, but it's not used by React, so I don't care. Something like that is what the compiler is doing. That's why it's not showing anything. So let's come back to our app.js, not app.js, maybe index.js. Here, since we have exported that JSX from there, we import it here. Port p tag from, and you have to give the relative path here. Do it like this. And now, if I write p tag here, just to render it, you see that immediately if I save it, some error comes in. Okay. So if you see the error, it says adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in enclosing tag. Okay. So this is what I was talking about, that in JSX, you always need to have the components enclosed within a parent tag, and that parent tag can be div or it can be anything else also according to the use case, but it should always be enclosed in the parent tag. So if I enclose it and then if I save it, okay, I see it's like there's still some error. What is the error? So it says parsing error unexpected token at line 118 in source ptag.js. We come to ptag.js and let's see what's the error here. In line 1, okay, the error is that this is a library, so this should be something like this. Okay, now it's there, compiled successfully. Now if I come here, so immediately you see this gets rendered. P tag, it is used to create a something. So this is what I was talking about. So this is how you essentially create components. Okay. Now, so we still have time. Maybe I can talk about props a little bit also. Right. So there is like one way. So one of the things that you see, as I have already discussed in some of my previous sessions, that the primary purpose of the React is to make the components or the parts of your HTML code reusable, right? So what we want is like, we don't want to, so just imagine like you created a ptag.js, and if you go back to your HTML code that we were writing that day, yeah, oops. Yeah, if you go back to that HTML code that we were writing that day, you will see that, I mean, you have to create so many things, p tag, div tag, span tag, blah, blah, blah. And you will see that most of them actually follows the same kind of, what I can say, pattern. Like one will be heading and the other one will be some text, right? Okay, yeah, some contains some more paragraphs, some contains less paragraphs. Okay, that is something that you don't have to care about right now. What you want to know, what you want to do is like you have got certain heading tag, like some heading is there, and then some text is there. Okay, which is like the main content. So imagine like you have to now create p tag, then for other tags also you have to create the same thing again and again. So we want to avoid that. Okay, so and that is where so we can avoid that if we are able to pass some data, like in case of HTML, you used to pass some attributes to it, right? For example, if you remember in the image tag, you were passing some attribute called source. Similarly, you can make customizable components in React by passing certain attributes to it. And these attributes are called props. So props, what it means is properties. Okay. So you pass down the properties for a component and you define the component within itself. So we will do the same thing right now. Okay. So before doing that, let me also show just one more example of how we create a component. We create a new file. Then let's come back here. What is there? Then we talk about, let's say, the UL tag. Okay. So we come back here. We create a new file and name it UL tag.js. First thing that we do is import React. Okay. And then we just name the function here. Return the JSX here. The JSX will contain a parent div tag. And inside a parent div tag, you'll have some heading, which will be like, UL tag or something. Yeah. And it will contain some paragraph, which is like this one. Okay. So that's all. And then you have to just export it from here. Export default UL tag. Okay. And then you have to import it within your index.jsx. In here, I import UL tag and I render it here. Okay. If I save this and if I come here, you'll see that the content for the UL tag also comes here. So this is like a very simple way of how we create components. So these UL tag, the tag, they're all components, individual components. Now I will give you a very simple example of what a prop is, and I'll show you a power of React, like why React is so popular. Like this will be like one of the reasons. Okay. So we create a new file. Let's name it tag def. Okay, which stands for tag definition. .js. In here, I import React from React, and I constant tag def. Right, we return div. This is your parent component, and inside this parent component, you will have some, some heading, and we have some main content, right? So that's it. That's the, and we export this also, export default tag diff. Okay. Now what we want is like, we don't want in the index.js, if you see, you have to essentially create components for the individual tags and then we have to render it here. I don't want that. What I'll do is that I'll use the same component, but I'll use it to render different, what I can say, different content. Okay. So I'll import this here, import tag def, and I'll pass it here. Yeah, but I want something like this, like heading. I will give it some heading and I give it some main content. Okay, so whatever I pass in the heading should appear in the heading. For example, let's say that if we take for the p tag, whatever, let's say the span tag, whatever I pass in the span tag, it should appear in the heading. I mean, whatever we pass here should appear in the heading, and whatever we pass here should appear in the main content, right? So I want something like this to happen, essentially. Okay, so if I save this, at this point of time, it says compiled successfully. But if you go back here, nothing happens. It just says heading and main content because we have passed these values from here, but we are not doing anything with them here. Okay, so here I'll write props. Like props is just a definition. I mean, just a name. It's just a standard to, to explain to the person who is reviewing your code that this is like props or the properties. You can also use anything other than properties also. Okay. So properties. So you're passing from there props. You're passing from there the heading. So you write here props dot heading, and you are passing the main content. So you write props dot main content here. Okay. So now whatever data you pass in as an attribute, that gets, so you see here now it's span tag and this definition of span tag. So what it does is like, if you see here, you can essentially replace all the tags with just this tag def. So you now don't require this p tag also. Okay. Instead of that, you just write tag def and you pass the heading to it, whatever heading you want to give. So for the p tag, we have this heading, just p tag. So we pass the heading as p tag, and the main content to be this one. So now you don't require this p tag anymore. You can remove this from here, and you can also remove this from here. You can simply delete it. Okay. Similarly, yeah. So somewhere I have imported source. Yeah, that's right. So you can also delete it. We will have to restart our server if we are deleting anything. Similarly, for the UL tag, you don't require now. You just require a dev tag there. You can pass the heading to this. You can pass the heading to this. And what was the heading for the span? I think what was it? UL tag, right? So yeah, we will stop. So the UL tag heading is just UL tag. We pass the heading to it and the main content to it as something like main content here. Okay. So once done, you also don't require the you yeah, you may also not require this app now. Anyways, so this UL tag is also not required. You can also remove this UL tag from here. You will delete it. So it's deleted. Now we just clear and we do npm start. Let's wait for it to get compiled. Oops. Okay, can't resolve p tag in React source and can't resolve module not found UL tag. Okay, are we using something somewhere? Okay, let's search here. P tag. Okay, we're not using it anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, actually I didn't save this index.jx file. That's why we got that error. Now we come here and you can see all the things that we did, span tag, v tag, will tag. Okay, they are all available. The only thing is like I don't have to write the HTML code again and again. Okay, I just pass the heading and the main content because that's the general pattern it followed. And I just use this particular HTML code. So this HTML, so this is the power of React that I was talking about. You essentially use the you reuse the HTML code that you write. You just change the properties, and that's why it's also called React, because it reacts to your data. Like whatever data you're passing, it will create a view accordingly. If you pass span tag and this data, then different view. Then if you pass p tag, then it's a different view, etc. So your components are generic. Okay, but what shows up depends upon what data you are passing. Okay, so that is a very simple example of how we use props. Okay, and yeah, so this props, if you do here console log, just to check what is getting passed in props in the props variable. If I save it, if I come back here, you do an inspect element, and if you go to console, then you'll see that there's some kind of object coming in. Okay, so this object contains heading and main content. Okay, so the props here that we were passing, this is essentially an object. Okay, the object contains two keys. These two keys are what we are passing from here. One key is heading, one key is main content, and the value is obviously the one that we pass. Right, so if you are so one more thing is, like, you should not write like this props and then you do props dot heading, props dot main content. Okay, let me show you what happens. Let me show you some interesting examples. Okay, uh, what happens if we use tag dev but I don't pass anything to it? Tag dev but I don't pass anything to it. Then what happens? Let me save this. We come back here, we refresh this, and now we go to the console. Okay, so you don't see any error as such, right? You just get welcome to the p tag and all other things, okay, but there's no error because your where you did it? Yeah, tagged it. So in here, when you do that, you'll see that in the console log, okay, the object gets passed. Okay, but the object is like empty object. So your association, like when you're trying to uh, access it, it doesn't work. Although this props is not passing as undefined, that's or none or any other such kind of which can throw some null pointer exception or something, nothing like that. So that is a feature of React. That's because this is a very common thing that can happen. Okay, let's come here. So if you see here, an empty object gets passed. Okay, but the thing that is not getting, it's not like undefined. Okay, or it's not like none type or something. It's just an empty object. That's why even if you are like trying to access heading and main content, which is not part of your object, but still doesn't get errored out. Okay. I will talk about object chaining later on when we will talk about, when you can get, how you can get sometimes undefined or sometimes none kind of, data types, and then how you handle it. Because if props here was undefined, then this will throw you an error. Let me show you. If props was instead of an empty object was undefined, okay, then you see what happens. You see here immediately in the console, you will get some kind of error. It says cannot read properties of undefined reading heading. So because your heading is your props is undefined, and you're trying to read the heading key for this undefined thing. That's why JavaScript don't understand this, and that's why you're getting the error. Okay, so in the earlier versions of JavaScript, you will, if you have used something like a very old version of React, then sometimes this props gets passed as undefined if you don't pass anything from here. But in all the modern versions, they essentially, if you're not giving any attribute, then it basically sends you an empty object. Okay. Right. So that's all from today. We just had a very brief introduction of what is a component. Then we talk about what are the props, okay, and how we pass the props and how we create. Oops. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry guys. So I got involved in the call. Yeah. So so this is what we learned today, like what is props, how we code in React, how we create components here, and all other things. So what I want you to do as part of the assignment is a few things. First is like here. First is like you create your own app, your own React app. Then you create components and convert your HTML code to JSX code and render it in React. And third, try using props and try making your components generic. So this is nothing new, it's just a thing that we have done today. So let me know if you have guys got any confusion with your today's assessment, if you have any questions regarding these three. So
No, Samandra, I'm good.
okay, great. So yeah, so let's anyone has any question with the session that we have today with React or anything?
So Mintu, what's the major difference between JavaScript and React?
JavaScript and React. So React is a framework and JavaScript is the scripting language. Okay, so if you write it in Angular, if you write it in Vue.js, Next.js, anything, so always like the underlying language that you're writing, it is JavaScript. Okay, but what a framework does is that it helps you to create the app in a certain way. For example, like we are looking at here. So it's so you have .js, index.js, tag.js. So you are creating your app, okay, in a certain, in a certain style, in a certain way. That's what React allows you. Like, for example, in index.js, you're importing the app. In the app, you're returning some JSX, and how these things are handled. So these things are handled by React. So remember, React in the underline is also JavaScript. If I go to show you, if I go to node modules, and if I like show you from here, you can see anything, any kind of, okay, let's see Babel, because I was talking about it. Okay, if you go to Babel, if you go to core, you go to source, okay, you see that, you see these files, these are like TypeScript files, but TypeScript, as I said, is also a kind of JavaScript only. So the React itself is written in JavaScript, okay, but if you use like React library, then it helps you to build your app in a certain way, okay, in a certain way, which allows you to generate customized components, customizable components, so you can reuse your HTML and basically work around with it. Does that make
Then,
sense?
yeah, then what's the difference between Node.js and JS? So is it like Node.js is used in the React, or
No.
what Node?
So, yeah, I mean, in a very simple way, I can explain it like you use C, right? So in
Yeah.
C, you have that GNU GCC compiler, right? So yeah, without your C code is not going to run without the GNU GCC compiler, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So Node.js is not a compiler for JavaScript. So the JavaScript, it runs on the Chrome's V8 engine. Okay, but Node.js gives you the base, I mean, the environment in which you can run your JavaScript. Okay. Yeah.
So all these for React, JavaScript, Node.js is must
Yes.
to work on
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Are we good now?
Yeah, so
Okay then. Okay then, guys, let's meet tomorrow, and I hope that you guys try this one out. So like so far, like I was not concerned about the HTML, CSS, all those, assessments, but from tomorrow, I hope that you guys do it, because it's very important that you try your hands on React and do these things, because until unless you practice, if you don't do it today, then tomorrow what will happen is, like, when I start teaching other things, things will start going over your head. So it's important that we, like, from now on, since we have started with React, we want to like do the assessments every day, so in order to make sure that we are in sync with what's happening. Okay. Okay then, guys, let's meet tomorrow. Thank you all.
Sure,
Goodbye.
sure. Yes. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Saminder.
Thanks. Okay.